of organizations that have a good possibility of sustained success in the future. The road has been paved by others, who have seen many examples of success all over the world. At the beginning of the era of globalization, organizations must take a stand and decide whether quality, standards, and metrology are to be converted into strategic assets or liabilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Malevski. Let us begin with Module 2, in which Ms. Ramona Villalón Donoso will describe the basic concepts of standardization and normalization, which we should all prove in our organizations.
Thank you. I will explain some of the key characteristics of organization with successful quality system, and will discuss some of the new standards available for use by today's organization. There are three basic strategies an organization should pursue to become more competitive. First is generating its own technology. This is the case in Germany, the United States, and Japan. Second is performing all activity in harmony with the environment. And third, achieving the quality required by this client or user at the lowest possible price. Obviously, the ideal, which is not always easy to achieve, will be to work in parallel with these three approaches: the latest technology, protection of the environment, and first-level quality. Let us review how the concept of standardization is tied to these three objectives. Let's start by defining standardization in practical terms as the process of elaborating and applying standards. The International Standard Organization, or ISO, has defined a standard as follows: a document established by consensus and approved by a recognized body, which offer for common and repeated use rules, guidelines, or a specification for various activities and their result, with the objective of achieving an optimal order level in a given context. As you know, it is not always easy to understand technical definition only by reading them. Therefore, in order to help in our understanding of what a norm or a standard is, let us look at the following figure, which illustrates the relationship between three commonly used items: a wrench, a screw, and a nut. In order for each item in this figure to be able to perform the function for which it was created, it is necessary to specify the materials, the shape, the dimensions, and the respective tolerance of its natures. These characteristics, when specified through a standard established with the approval of manufacturer and user, can assure an optimal level of performance in the wide array of industrial applications in which these items are commonly used. It is crucial to point out that when any of these items comply with such a standard, it can then be exportable from any country with the certainty that it will satisfy the importing client. In addition to these advantages, we can also say that standardization promotes maximization of the use of production or service capacity, reduce inventories, simplifies work, unify quality criteria, reduce cost, etc. Let us look at the next figure to establish a relationship between standardization and cost. The product shown in the figure is cooking oil. It is sold in 3 types of container, which in turn require the manufacture of 3 different molds. Since in this case the main concern of the consumer is basically the quality of the oil, we could choose to use only 1 type of container, with a resultant saving in not having to manufacture various container types. The differentiation between these oil products should be directed instead toward the label and more specifically toward the quality of the oil as the basic element for its commercial competitiveness. Obviously, there are products such as perfume and cosmetic where the design or shape of the container is important to initially attract the attention of consumer. But in the case of the oil, such a factor is not important. Let's look at standardization now from a classification perspective. Standard can be classified according to level, scope, and the object to which they apply. To better understand, let us analyze the next graph. With regard to the Z-axis, which refers to the standard levels, this can be applicable to an individual organizational level such as the standard for a specific production or service sectors, or to a global level, such as the case in the ISO international standard, which have been established with the consensus of all member countries in order to facilitate international trade. National standard, upon recommendation of the World Trade Organization, or WTO, should be harmonized with international standard. In this way, countries can facilitate the export activity of its organization and simplify control procedure for imported products. Looking at the X-axis, which refers to the object or purpose of the standards, we can see that this can apply to very diverse industrial activities, such as the food, textile, or transportation industries. With regard to the scope of the standard, indicated on the Y-axis, the standard can refer to terminology, to product requirement, or even to packaging. By interrelating these axes, we can generate a large number of different types of standards, such as, for example, a regional standard that might apply to the terminology used in transportation operations, or an international standard that specifies the procedure for the sampling of a shipment of sacks of cement. Thus far, we have discussed what the standards are, some of their benefits, and how they are classified. Now, we will discuss some of the key aspects that standardization established in order to achieve the determined objectives. First, we must pursue simplification. This implies eliminating unnecessary parts in a product or reducing the number of models produced. Remember, as an example, the figure where we saw 3 different container types which held the same volume of cooking oil. A second aspect refers to unification, that is, those characteristics which permit products from different manufacturers to be interchangeable, as will be the case with automobile spark plugs or with products which can be interconnected. An example here could be a light bulb for a lamp, where, thanks to standardization, we are not commonly required to take the lamp with us every time that we need to change the light bulb. A last key aspect refers to specification and implies that each standard must clearly establish the quality requirement of a product, or the producer to sample a lot of that product, or test method that can verify if a product meets a certain established requirement within a given standard. Before discussing some examples that illustrate how standards benefit different sectors of society, allow me to present a figure that refers to the various technical activities or tasks which, along with the standardization, support our industrial production and international commerce and contribute to the development of our countries and to the welfare of our people. This figure allows us to clearly visualize the relationship between different sectors of society. Government agencies, through law and regulation, establish frameworks so that each citizen can understand his or her rights and responsibility within society. In addition to establishing the sanitary and public safety requirements that will ensure the protection of people and the environment, thus contributing to the achievement of the highest possible quality of life for all the population in accordance with its socio-economic needs and realities. Let's look at the three pillars which represent the technical tools needed so that both the production of goods as well as the delivery of service can be performed competitively. The fifth pillar represents standardization, a concept which we have already discussed. The second pillar refers to metrology, and the third to quality. These are topics will be covered by my colleagues in this program. In the upper segment of the figure, we have industry, which involves the production of goods, such as food or electronic products, or delivered services, such as the hospitality and communication sectors. Next, we have the market component, in which we trade goods and services, and where we have the client as the main stakeholder in our system, since the main object of all our effort to make ourselves more competitive is to satisfy him or her. Let us now discuss some examples of standards that have had a strong impact on industrial development and the normative requirements which have generated their application. One example is the series of ISO 9000 international standards, which have greatly facilitated the implementation of quality management system in all types of organization. A second example is the series 14,000, which promotes the global development of environmental management system to ensure that our productivity activity is sustainable by the environment. The large number of organizations certified worldwide by these two series of standards has produced the need for new tools to improve competitiveness by being more specific in terms of quality specification or by including aspects that go beyond quality and the environment. In response to this need, there are now exist new standards that are available to use globally or which are in the process of development. Here are some examples. Standard QS 9000, which was elaborated to meet the need of the automakers Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler in the United States. This standard is the foundation for continuous quality improvement in these corporations, allowing its suppliers to respond more effectively to the common quality requirements established in this industry. Standard AS 9000 is tailored to the specified requirement of the aerospace industry. Standard AS 8000, which stands for Social Accountability 8000, prepared by the Council of Economic Priorities Accreditation Agency, offers a framework for ethical resource utilization and production of goods, including mechanisms so that the organization can ensure a fair and safe workplace for its employees and the employees of their suppliers. Finally, I give the hotel industry as an example of a business sector which still could benefit from more extensive standardization activities. Although hotels have an established quality of service scale based on a certain number of stars, there is still no international consensus as to the minimal requirement that must be met for each number of stars. Just as in the case with the hotel industry, there are many other productive sectors which still need further standardization activities, making this a permanent tool for meet the ever more different and strict requirements set by our client. I invite you to try this approach in your organization. Thank you.
Nice. Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Villalón. Let us begin the first question and answer session. We will try to answer as many questions as possible. Therefore, we ask that only one question be asked per phone call, and that these questions be as brief as possible. You may call the studio directly at the phone numbers or fax which now appear on your screen. We remind you to make your phone calls at a distance from the monitor to avoid feedback. Our first call is from Mexico. It is from El Instituto Tecnológico de Ocotlán in the city of Ocotlán, Jalisco, Mexico.
Our question is, what do you recommend for the strategic alliances for the to establish guidelines for the consumers?
Dr. Malevski, did you hear the question?
Yes, I would say that this type of normalization should be done by a country institution, because you are talking about products that come from different companies, and this is really a job for the country normalization institution.
Our next question is also from Mexico. It is from el Instituto Politécnico Nacional de Educación Continua in Mexico, DF.
Good morning. We have the pleasure of greeting you and congratulating you. We have a question. We hope that is an appropriate one and we want a concrete answer. What is the quality standard for the industries of the Southwest? Thank you.
Bueno, para la industria de for the software industry, the standards will be consumer standards. The consumer will tell you what he wants, and according to the wishes of the consumer, you will give him the product that he is looking for.
Our next question is from Brazil. It will be in English. It is from the Serviço Nacional de Aprendizaje Comercial in Porto Alegre.
É assim, Senac Nacional. Já falou o nome? Hello, yes. Our question? Okay. Which cares must we have on the standardization to avoid the transformation of the people in simple robots, or better, obstructing their creativity?
Dr. Malevski, did you hear the question?
No, I
How do
didn't.
we keep the people from becoming robots with all of the measurement and standards which we are talking about today?
Well, you know, this is really an exciting era, and the consumer demands, they change all the time. So there is no danger of people becoming robots, but rather people becoming each time better consumers, and knowing to demand and knowing to really expect new things and exciting things from product and services. And I think that there is no danger of people becoming robots.
Our next question is from Costa Rica, from Sabino Morera y Asociados in San Jose.
Buenos días. We have heard that the guidelines and standards sometimes are technical barriers for trade because they eliminate the tariffs for the different countries. And that is the situation when we talk about environmental standards in Europe through the EMAS. What is your opinion on this in this regard?
Well, this is really a point to consider, that standards may impede international commerce. But today, since borders open, this danger every day becomes less important. We would like to stress that there is no way we can promote management which is deficient and say that it should be protected by standards which are very strict. We rather have to adjust to very strict standards, and what we have to do is bring management up to this level where they can really work within those very strict standards. And since borders will not exist anymore for commerce and interchange of goods and services, then only those who will be able to comply with those very strict standards will be able to survive.
Our next question is from Mexico, from La Universidad La Salle, Pachuca, in the state of Hidalgo, Mexico.
Our question is the following. How can we establish a measurement system that is custom-made, tailor-made, when our company, our organization is more of a cottage industry level and that uses usually different kinds of materials?
Well, this is exactly the challenge. It is very important to stress that quality, the technology of quality, and also measurements are really tools, and they should be tailor-made. What we have to do in every case to see what type of measurements are necessary and to establish the type of controls and measurements that will assure the quality of the product we are working with. And there is really no quick solution. It should be adapted according to the conditions and the type of industry, and I am sure that those things could be worked out quite easily.
Our next question is from Panama, from the Universidad Tecnológico de Panamá in Panama.
Adelante. Good morning. How can a government that is usually more and more assuming a more passive role in this liberalization of the economy, how can the government become a regulating agency for quality in the market and establish guidelines for satisfying the consumers' and customers' demands when they are already withdrawing from contact with the client?
Well, actually we believe that governments, all they have to do is really create the conditions for a fair competition. And they have to create the conditions necessary for excellence in management. We do not feel that government should be overprotective. We feel that the consumer, once he becomes educated, he will know exactly what to demand, and the consumer will do really the control of the quality of the products and services. We expect of governments to create the conditions where excellence in management could be really achieved.
Our next question is from Bolivia, from la Universidad Privada Boliviana in Cochabamba.
Good afternoon to all of you panelists. A very cordial greeting from all of us here from UPB. And our question here is for Dr. Malevski. Within the structure of the organization, who is responsible for the administration or management cycle to be applied correctly? And how can we have people really commit to this quality process independently from the management of the actual enterprise?
We believe that in any organization the responsibility lies with the top management. They have to create the conditions so everybody can work within this management cycle. We also believe that the management is a process, and everybody that works in an organization should participate in this process, and it is a matter of education, and it is a matter of creating those conditions necessary for the implementation of this management cycle.
Our next question is also from Mexico, from el Instituto Politécnico Nacional, CITEDI, in Tijuana, Baja California, in Mexico. The question is, what is the difference between a norm and a regulation? Ms. Villalón?
Yeah. Well, the standard establishes only quality specification, and its application is voluntary. The technical regulation establishes sanitary and safety requirements, and their applications is mandatory. By example, a standard establishes the minimum content of fruits in juices or jams. Technical regulation establishes the maximum content of lead in paints or the bacterial count in food. That's the difference.
Our next question is from Colombia, from la Federación Nacional de Comerciantes in Medellín. The question is, what do you mean by a standard being the result of consensus? Ms. Villalón?
Okay, thank you. It means that each standard must be the result of an agreement between four sectors. The first is manufacture. The sector are consumer or users, the government authorities, and scientific laboratories related with the product under the study.